had the privilege just recently of listening to a girl called Jess Gallagher tell a bit of her story. And she tells the story of breaking through the ski gate as she's won over the course of 2 Winter Olympics bronze in the women's giant slalom, and hurtling down a hill at speeds of 100 kilometres an hour and doing all of the turns and the jumps and the crouches. And she showed us a photograph and began to tell us the story. And there was a man in front of her, and she just referred to him as Eric. And it takes a little bit of research to discover that the man's name is Eric Bickerton, and he is Jessica Gallagher's sighted guide. Jessica Gallagher is 93% blind and is a Paralympian giant slalom gold medal winner. And she shares this story about deciding to listen to a number of different positive voices in her world that led her to not just representing Australia in the Winter Olympics, but representing Australia in the Summer Olympics as well. Just the other day at home, I was just wandering around and I took myself around the corner and stuck my head into our laundry. And my 3-year-old son was sitting on the floor and he was pulling everything out of the dryer with Mum's permission. And I said, hey mate, Maddox, what are you doing? And he goes, Dad, I'm just helping Mum. And I go, thanks, buddy, that's really great. And with his back to me, all I heard was this voice said, your pleasure, Dad. As you know, I pastor a church, and I've transitioned this church over the last several years. And I had a meeting with a gentleman who sat down with me, and I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but a meeting that starts with, I just really want today to be honest, and I don't think you're going to love everything that you hear. And this person then went on to say to me, more or less, she said, you know, you're not as good a leader as you think you are, Rohan. And you're not as good a preacher as you think you are. And we went on to have the discussion, and I mean, I can comfortably say that they're loving their new church right now. But there are some things that you've got to think through when you reflect on voices, isn't it? When you reflect on the language that goes on between your ears. When you think about what the volume of the most important things that go on in your heart really are. What voices do you listen to? What do you allow frame your world? Because voices or words, they're powerful. I read a book, Ancient Script, Jib Rowan calls it. He says that life and death is in the power of the tongue. Words are creative. They can actually say things will happen in the future that aren't in existence right now. But words are formative too, because I've met with people and talked with people and cared about people who are living both the limitations and the legacies of words and voices that got spoken to them, and those people aren't even alive. You're living the voice of a dead person. Voices are powerful. They're not slogans, they're not mantras. You know, Australia, the home of the great number plate. I motivate you. Right? I excel R8. You know, shame that it was on just the V-dub. It's not something that's shallow. It's something formative and something powerful and something important. And I think a voice is best defined as the words or the words that we could or should believe to create our future. And when it comes to voices, what should we do with them? What should we, how should we engage and interact with them? I think there are 3 things. The first thing is, I think we need to turn some voices up. You've got to turn up the voice of possibility, the voice of courage, the voice of transformation, as we've heard, the voice of capability. If you'd lost 93% of your vision, would representing Australia at Summer and Winter Olympics be on your list of things to do? If you'd lost 93% of your vision, were desiring to continue to represent and shape and encourage and carve a pathway for a future generation be on your list of things to do? There are just some voices we've got to turn up. There are some voices we've got to give volume to and credibility to and credence to. There are things that we've got to say to each other repeatedly. I think we've got to turn some voices on. I think we've got to turn on the voice of gratitude, to be reflectively thankful on the things that we've got, to be reflectively thankful on the fact that we live in the nation that we live in, with the resources that we've got, the relationships we've had, and the opportunities that are ahead of us. You've got to be reminded some days by a 3-year-old that it really is your pleasure, Dad. Got to be reminded that maybe there's incredible delight in those little things. You've got to be reminded that there are things that happen in your world and mine that you never see, you never experience, but you enjoy the benefit of every day. I think the third thing is this: you've got to turn some voices down. One writer put it this way: one lie has the power to tarnish 1,000 truths. And when a powerful voice, when an influential voice says something that limits your future, that limits your capability, that limits the potential that you could enjoy and experience into the future, you've got to work out a way to turn that down. To be a liar, even to yourself, requires great commitment, another writer said. It requires the commitment to believe something that you were never born to become. It requires the commitment to believe something that could limit and shape and hold you back from being the very person that, in my belief system, that perhaps even God has created you to be. You've got to turn some voices down. So sitting across the seat from this gentleman and hearing him say, you know, you're not as good a preacher as you think you are, and you're not as good a leader as you think you are. I turned around to him and I said, look, I suppose you're right. And wrong. I'm probably not as good a preacher as you think I am, or as good a leader as you think I am, or as good a man as you think I am. But I'm probably a little bit better than perhaps you might suggest I am in other environments as well. I'm probably not the limitations that you want to put on me. I'm probably not the smallness or the selfishness or the inwardly focused individual that you're suggesting that I am. And the way I've discovered to turn the voice down is to actually have a future that is so big and so bright and so loud, it actually drowns out those other options. You turn the voice of gratitude on. Your pleasure, Dad. You bet it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure to pick you up in the middle of the night when you're upset. It's my pleasure to be reminded that you're helping Mum. It's my pleasure to experience the benefit of your great manners when you say, thank you, Mum, or could I please have a boiling egg? Because his little world reminds me that there are some things that I can be grateful for every single day that aren't that big. Jess Gallagher was leaning against the gate with Eric Bickerton beside her, and it had started to rain in this giant slalom race, and she was beginning to lose a little bit of focus and switch out of her pre-game ritual. And Eric, snap out of it, Jess. Get back involved. Get back in the game. And the rain started to fall on the course, and she goes, Eric, it's okay for you. It's raining, and you'll lose 10% of your vision, which means at 100 kilometres an hour in the giant slalom downhill, you'll have 90% sight to see all your way to the bottom. I've lost 93% of my vision. If I lose 10% of my vision, I can't see anything. And Eric said, don't worry, I'll talk you down through the comms. They break the gate, and as Eric goes down the hill in front of her and she starts to speed up, she begins the conversation. And as she leans in to listen, all she hears is thunderous silence. And the rain has caused the comm system between the two helmets to stop working. And she says, as she tells the story, she says, "Eric, the comms aren't working." And in the distance that she can't see, all she hears is a voice that says, "Jess, I'll talk you down the hill." And she made a decision to listen to the one most powerful voice that would get her there. And I hope you do too. Thank you.
This has been another Metamorphic production.